Happy Mindful Monday, Conscious Leaders, and Happy New Year. It's going to be a great year. So here we are entering 2017, and we are closing the drama triangle. We're ending with speaking about the villain. And so the villain is one who really is kind of a bully in life and really sets out to blame other people, right? So in the victim, it's really being kind of powerless at the situation. And yes, there's a powerless way of being, but they want to blame people, and that helps them to feel better about the situation. Almost like look at it as if that blaming actually helps them remove that dissonant energy. And so certain things that they might say is that, well, you know what? They'll get what's coming to them, and they deserve it, and I'm right and they're wrong. And we might even actually be more of a villain to ourselves. We might blame ourselves, and it's because of me that this happened. And if I only did it this way, and if I only could have seen it in that way, then God, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did that, right? So we're really hard on ourselves, and we kind of bully ourselves. And this is actually how a lot of businesses are run, where we blame ourselves, groups, situations, events, anything like that. And believe it or not, that's actually where a lot of businesses see a lot of success. Temporary, because over time it does bite them in the ass. So it's really important to be aware of that, because if you think about it, when you're bullied, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good at all. And so what we do is we have the opportunity to shift from the villain and we shift to the challenger, where we start to really ask people certain questions, in the sense of that it's like, okay, so I'm going to take responsibility for this part of the project. What would be your part of the responsibility? What could be your responsibility? What are you willing to take responsibility for? Instead of just making it all about them being wrong and them not doing it right. It's a really important thing to pay attention to. And again, it always goes back to getting curious and asking questions, but we're putting it back on the person. We're challenging them. We're asking them to open their minds. Oftentimes when we're coming from the villain place, we're very closed-minded and we're very stuck on what we think is right, but ultimately we're not opening ourselves up to what the other person thinks and believes. And so when we actually challenge somebody and we want to ask them about their own personal opinions or beliefs, or how they might see it different or anything like that, it might push them a little bit, but not in a way that's forceful and blaming, in a way that's challenging them, that invites them to open up their minds a little bit. And the same thing with our own selves, is we want to challenge ourselves a little bit, and we want to ask ourselves some really great quality questions, in the sense of that, okay, so how might I actually take better responsibility next time? What could I do differently next time? And so we challenge ourselves there. The other thing, similar to heroes, is it's also important to have healthy boundaries. When we think about the villain and we're blaming a situation, it makes sense that we are ultimately not allowing for that space for somebody else to take that responsibility. And so in turn, we end up really taking it on. Even though we're blaming it on them, we're actually not creating healthy boundaries around the situation. So we're pushing something on them. And so setting healthy boundaries is, again, why we ask them certain questions, in the sense of, well, what would your responsibility be in this situation? So I'll give you an example. My sister, who is a really intelligent woman, and she's very, very successful, which is, one interpretation is that she is successful in her life, where she doesn't have to work anymore and she's doing very well financially. Is she really bullies people in life, and being her younger sister, it's something that she's done to me always and continues to, but there's always a blame. There's always a reason why. It's the school system. It's because of the school system, but it's not from a victim mentality in the sense of that she's powerless. The way that she actually fights back is through the villain. So she gets really aggressive and mean and becomes the bully in situations. And that's how she sees success. Why? Because people are scared of her. And so ultimately she's really showing up in this stance that's aggressive, and she's getting results. So being more in the villain, it's actually, what I notice as a coach is that it's the most challenging position for people to see, well, why would I bother changing? So in that respect, I would then challenge you, or challenge somebody else, to really start seeing, well, what is it costing me in being the villain? So like we are doing each week, is this week just start to pay attention. Remember, this might be your default. It may just be something that you do every once in a while. It may be something that you dip your toe in. It may be something that you're witnessing people on your team do. It's just become aware of how the villain's playing out in your life. and then consider, or somebody else's life where you're a part of, and then consider and look at how you're actually showing up with it and how can you actually challenge them or yourself. One other thing I want to mention really quickly about the villain is this, is that when we're confronted with a villain, oftentimes what many of us do, we'll actually recoil. And we'll actually go into our place of powerlessness because we don't want to fight against that way of being, or fight against that energy. It's a lot. Even if you're not afraid of conflict, it's a very interesting kind of thing when somebody habitually comes at that way of being where they're pushing and pushing and pushing and extremely righteous. So it's also really important to pay attention to the way that you might kind of cower back a little bit and give them your power and ultimately just feeding that villain role again. So have fun with it this week, exploring it, check in with your buddy to see how it might be showing up between the two of you and you can understand it more. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out, and then I will speak with you all this Friday. And for those of you that can't be on the call, just make sure you give it a listen. Okay, have a great week.